Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Austin here to help you clarinet players play low on your instrument. For your brown belt for this week, you guys are working on number 112 and number 115, and that really involves playing some low notes on your instrument, and that can be tricky. Sometimes we end up squeaking or getting this airy tone, and we're not really sure why. Biggest reason that I find a lot of students your age are having issues playing low is because we're not covering the holes all the way. So if I hold my clarinet up to my camera here and I just show you a little bit of the rings, I see this from a lot of students when we're trying to play low. And if you have any of the keys exposed like that and you try to play low, right, there's a lot of back pressure. It feels like the air isn't actually going through your instrument and you get this squeak or you just get that really airy sound. What we want to make sure we're doing is we're covering every single hole with the fleshy part of our fingers. In order to do that, we're going to do this little thing called checking our Cheerios, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to place your hands on the keys and you're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze really, really hard. And then you're going to lift up your fingers and take a look and notice that you have rings. I call these Cheerios, right? So these are the rings that are on your finger. Now take a look at my middle finger here, my second finger here. Notice how that ring is right in the middle of my finger. If I turn over here to the side, you notice that it is right on the fleshy part where the fleshy part starts for my hand, right? If you're looking at your Cheerios and you notice that your ring is a little bit higher up towards your fingernail, that's too high. If you notice that your ring is a little bit lower towards like the first knuckle, the crease of your first knuckle, that's too low, right? You want it to be right on the fleshy part of your fingers. Then when you're playing down, I want you to take a look at your fingers and notice that you should not really see any silver behind your fingers. Now, obviously, I'm a little bit taller than a lot of people. I've got a little bit bigger hands, so it's a lot easier for me to hide that silver. But even still, you should be able to hide most of that silver, and that's how you know that your fingers are laying down nice and flat and covering the entire hole. So now, after we've checked our Cheerios and we like the spot where our Cheerio is, remember, you want it on the fleshy part of your finger. Now what we want to try to do is we want to try playing down low. And just like the first two measures in number 112, it just has you lay down one finger at a time. C, B flat, A, G, F. And just showing it, it looks like this. C, B flat, A, G, F. Literally just one finger at a time. And so when we're playing down low like this, we want to use fast, light fingers in order to make the note sound clean. So it's going to sound like this. Sounds very clean, sounds very nice. If I move my fingers slow, watch what happens with the sound. Do you notice how the sound makes it seem like I'm dipping down into each note rather than playing note, note, note? So that's what we want to think about. Now, when we checked our Cheerios, we squeezed really, really hard. We don't actually need to squeeze that hard to play our clarinet. It's actually a very light amount of pressure that you need in order to push down those keys. So after you try that a couple of times, and you get really used to getting down to that low F with quick, light fingers, making sure that your fingers are all covering the holes, I want to bring your attention now to 115. And I've highlighted a measure for you to take a look at. This measure here in 115, you notice that we've got A to F, right? These are our first notes here. We've got A to F. Now, if you looked at a fingering chart, that's a lot of fingers to put down, right? It's basically all of them, right? Your fingering chart in your book says your A is just this key alone, right? Just this key right up here, the teardrop key. And then your F is all of these fingers down and your thumb key on the back. So you're basically going from one finger to all your fingers. It's a lot to put down, right? And if you are actually trying to do that, it can be really challenging. But on clarinet, there's a little bit of a hack that we can do, right? When I play clarinet, if I'm playing A, I can put down all of my right hand and still have it sound like an A. We call that a cover fingering, right? So I can lay down my entire right hand and still have the note sound like an A. I can even go a little bit further. I can put my ring finger down and I can put my second finger down, my middle finger down as well too, and it still sounds like an A. right? So that's another cover fingering. So then all that's left is just my first finger and my thumb in order to get down to F, right? So when I play A, these two fingers need to stay up or else it's gonna affect the pitch badly. Notice how it sounds bad if I put down my first finger or my thumb. Right, you can hear it changes the pitch too much, so we don't wanna do that. So we can have A, our second finger, our third finger in our left hand, and then you can have your first finger, your second finger, your third finger, and your pinky down in order to play A. So then that means all I'm doing is I'm just moving these two fingers right here. A to F sounds like this. Now I can slur between those two notes and still have it sound really smooth. What's great about the clarinet is that once you have a good embouchure and you've got that right tongue position, you don't have to ever change them, right? It's the same for every single note. So I'm not changing anything in here. I'm just using my air. I'm making sure that my fingers are landing in the right spot and I can get a nice, smooth, slurred sound. So the other part with that as well too is that when you're going back and forth between A and F, which I'm sure you're trying right now if you haven't already, with that key, right, notice how I'm getting a roll action here, right? Some of us have the tendency to lift up our whole first finger in order to play A. And the problem with that is that it's not very fast, right? So what we want to think about doing is try putting your first finger down on your F sharp and think about rolling up and just touching the A key with your first knuckle, right? So that's the kind of roll movement that we're looking for here when we play clarinet. So when we're going from A, right, and again with our cover fingering here, so when we're going from A to F, notice that I've just got this nice roll action, and that's really going to help you clean up. So continue to work on that. If you're getting an airy sound, or you're getting a squeak, you feel like there's like back pressure, all of a sudden your clarinet feels clogged, you're not covering a hole all the way, right? So take your time, make sure that your fingers are covering every single hole, and make sure that you're using fast, light fingers in order to play all of your low notes and in order to play all of your fingerings on the clarinet. If you have any questions about anything that you've seen, feel free to reach out to me or your band director for more questions.